Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're cutting through the noise and diving deep into a topic that sparks a lot of curiosity and sometimes a lot of frustration. The science of growing a fuller, denser beard.
Hmm,
You've given us a fantastic stack of sources packed with evidence-based insights, and our mission today is to, well, distill those down for you.
that's right. We're moving beyond the endless marketing claims and, the anecdotal advice. Our goal is to arm you with a clear scientific understanding of facial hair biology.
Yeah.
You'll learn what's predetermined, what you can genuinely influence, and what's just, well, a myth, helping you set realistic expectations and make informed choices.
Absolutely. Think of this as your shortcut to understanding your beard's full potential, grounded in real science. So let's get right into it. Where does it all begin? What's already decided for us before we even, try to grow anything?
Okay. Well, the foundation of everything related to your beard, its density, its pattern, even the thickness of individual hairs, it really comes down to genetics.
Right, the blueprint.
Exactly. It's your unique biological blueprint. And this isn't just about one or two genes either. It's what we call a polygenic trait,
Hmm.
meaning hundreds of different genes are actually working together to influence your facial hair.
Wow, hundreds.
Yeah. And what's particularly interesting is that these genetic predispositions, they can come from both your maternal and paternal sides.
Oh, okay. Not just one side then.
Nope. So you might inherit, say, a growth pattern from your dad's side and maybe hair thickness from your mom's or, vice versa. It's a mix.
So it's a real genetic mosaic. Does that mean there are like common patterns we can observe based on ancestry?
Exactly. Yeah. While everyone's unique, of course, ethnicity often gives us a pretty good indication of shared genetic
For
tendencies.
example.
Well, for instance, studies frequently show men of Mediterranean and Caucasian descent. They tend to have a genetic predisposition for thicker, fuller beards across the face. Conversely, scientific data suggests Chinese men often have less facial hair, typically concentrated more around the mouth area, whereas Caucasian men commonly see more growth on the cheeks, neck, and chin. So yeah, it helps set a general expectation for your inherent pattern.
Okay, so genetics lays the groundwork, but genetics aren't the whole story, are they?
No, definitely not.
What about the actual timeline for beard growth? Is it an instant gratification thing or is it more of a slow burn?
Oh, it's definitely a marathon, not a sprint. We're talking about a protracted developmental process. It can literally take over a decade to unfold completely for many men.
A decade. Wow.
Now, it typically kicks off during puberty, maybe around ages 14 to 16. That's when those fine, almost invisible peach fuzz hairs, we call that vellus hair,
Hmm.
they begin to transform into coarser, darker terminal hair. And the general progression is quite predictable.
So?
Usually it's the upper lip first, around 14, 16. Then you get the sideburns, and under the lower lip, say 16, 18. And finally, the lower cheeks and chin start filling in from 17, often extending well into the early 20s.
And that's not even the full story, right? I feel like there's a common misconception that by your early 20s, you've hit your peak.
Absolutely. That's one of the biggest myths out there.
Yeah.
A really significant phase of maturation continues throughout a man's 20s and often even into his early 30s.
Really? Early 30s?
Oh, yeah. Most men don't actually achieve their full beard density and thickness until their late 20s or even early 30s. The peak is often observed between 25 and 35.
Okay.
So if you're in your early 20s and maybe rocking a patchy beard, don't despair.
Good news.
It's highly likely it's just a work in progress.
Mm.
Patience is indeed scientifically supported. Now, while a gradual decline in testosterone can lead to slower growth and maybe some thinning after 30 or 40, many men maintain a strong beard well into their 50s and 60s.
That's incredibly reassuring for a lot of younger guys out there. So, okay, within that long-term journey, how do individual hairs actually grow? What's their fundamental life cycle like?
Right? Every single hair on your body, including your beard, follows this predictable three-phase cycle. First, there's anagen. That's the growth phase.
Okay.
This is where the hair fiber is actively forming and getting longer. For facial hair, this can last anywhere from several months up to maybe a year.
And that determines length.
Exactly. This phase is what determines the terminal length your beard can ultimately reach. Hair typically grows about maybe half an inch per month during this time.
Gotcha. Phase 2.
Next is catagen. That's the transition phase. It's a brief period, just a few weeks, where growth basically stops and the follicle starts to shrink.
Okay. Brief transition.
And then finally we have telogen, which is the resting phase. For facial hair, this lasts about 2 to 4 months. During this time, the old hair is just dormant, and eventually it sheds as a new hair begins to grow beneath it.
Right.
Understanding this cycle is actually pretty crucial because some interventions, like minoxidil, they specifically work by influencing these phases, trying to prolong that growth phase.
Okay, interesting. So we've got the genetic blueprint, we've got the long evolving timeline, and the hair cycle itself. What's the engine driving all of this? We hear a lot about testosterone, but what's its real role here?
Testosterone is indeed the principal male sex hormone, no doubt. It's the primary catalyst for facial hair development. That surge during puberty, that's the critical signal that tells those fine vellus hairs to transform into the coarser, darker terminal hairs we recognize as a beard.
Right, but there's that persistent myth, isn't there, that if you just have more testosterone, you'll automatically have a thicker, fuller beard. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's a really common misconception. And the science says for the vast majority of men, probably not.
Ah.
As long as your testosterone levels are within the normal physiological range, meaning, enough to have successfully started and finished puberty, simply having more testosterone within that normal range hasn't been found to directly correlate with a thicker beard.
So studies back this up.
Yeah. For example, a 2021 study found basically no link between beard length and salivary testosterone levels in men who had typical hormone levels. The only real exception is if someone have clinically low testosterone, a condition called hypogonadism. In those specific cases, yes, medical intervention can improve growth.
Okay.
But for the average guy trying to artificially boost testosterone, well, it won't magically make your beard thicker.
That's a really key distinction. So if overall testosterone level isn't the direct driver for most men, what is the master hormone for actual beard growth?
Ah, okay. The most potent androgen specifically stimulating facial hair growth is dihydrotestosterone, or DHT.
DHT.
Yep. There's an enzyme called 5-reductase, and it converts about 10% of your free testosterone into DHT, right there within the target tissues like your hair follicles. And DHT is incredibly powerful. It binds to androgen receptors with something like 5 times greater affinity than testosterone itself.
5 times, wow.
Yeah. And research clearly shows that cells from beard follicles are highly efficient at metabolizing testosterone into DHT. This is actually a stark contrast to scalp follicles. The critical role of DHT is really highlighted by individuals with a rare genetic condition, a 5-alpha reductase deficiency.
What happens with them?
Well, they produce normal testosterone, but they have very, very sparse facial hair
Yeah.
because their bodies just can't efficiently convert testosterone to this more potent form, DHT.
Okay, this sounds like it leads to a bit of a tricky situation, something I think is often called the androgen paradox. Can you explain what that is and why it's so important for understanding overall hair growth?
Yeah, it's a critical piece of the puzzle. The androgen paradox is essentially this. The very same hormone, DHT, which is absolutely essential for stimulating the growth of robust facial and body hair,
Mm-hmm.
is also the primary culprit behind male pattern baldness on the scalp in men who are genetically predisposed.
Ah, right. The same hormone doing opposite things.
Exactly. So this creates a direct conflict when it comes to treatment. For instance, common medical treatments for scalp hair loss are things like finasteride. They are 5-alpha reductase inhibitors.
Mean they block DHT.
Precisely. They work by blocking DHT production. So while that can be effective for preserving scalp hair, those same medications are inherently counterproductive if your goal is beard enhancement, especially if your beard isn't yet fully mature.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. So it's not just about how much testosterone or DHT is floating around in your system. It's about something deeper, at the follicle level, isn't it? What truly determines how your beard grows.
Precisely. You nailed it. The ultimate determinant isn't the sheer quantity of circulating hormones. It's really the density and, crucially, the sensitivity of the androgen receptors located within the dermal papilla cells of your hair follicles.
And that sensitivity is genetic.
Purely genetic. It's a trait you inherit. So when DHT binds to a highly sensitive receptor, it activates specific genes that kickstart hair growth. It signals that follicle to produce a thicker, longer, more pigmented hair fiber. And this elegantly explains why two men with very similar testosterone and DHT levels can have vastly different beard growth.
It's all about how responsive their individual follicles are.
Exactly. Not just the hormone levels themselves.
Okay, fascinating. So while we can't change our genetic blueprint or, the basic hormonal signals, we can absolutely influence how well our body expresses its potential.
Definitely.
Let's talk about optimizing your system. What we put into our bodies is probably a great place to start with beard health, right?
Absolutely. Think of it this way. Your hair follicles are constantly building hair fibers. It's a highly metabolic process. So a well-balanced diet isn't just like a suggestion. It's basically a prerequisite for optimal hair growth.
And the number one thing is protein, I guess.
Yeah, the fundamental building block is protein because hair is primarily made of keratin. So you need lean meats, fish, eggs, legumes, nuts, all essential.
And beyond protein, what other nutritional superstars should we be thinking about? Are there specific vitamins or minerals?
Oh yeah, definitely. Beyond protein, there's a whole spectrum of micronutrients that act as vital building blocks and catalysts. You need B vitamins, especially biotin, that's B7 for the keratin infrastructure, and niacin, B3, which helps with blood circulation to the follicles.
Okay, B vitamins. What else?
Vitamin C is crucial. It helps with collagen synthesis, and it also helps your body absorb iron, which is also critical.
Ah, iron. Yeah, I've heard that's linked to hair loss.
Big time. Iron is essential for getting oxygen to your follicles. Iron deficiency or anemia is a major cause of hair loss, so things like red meat, liver, spinach, lentils are good sources. Then there's vitamin D. It plays a role in creating new hair follicles and also supports healthy testosterone production. Fatty fish, fortified milk, sunlight.
Right, and vitamin E.
Vitamin E acts as a powerful antioxidant, and it also boosts blood circulation. Nuts, seeds, spinach have that. And don't overlook key minerals either. Zinc is vital for hair tissue growth and repair. A deficiency can actually lead to hair loss, things like beef, oysters, pumpkin seeds.
Wow, okay.
And finally, healthy fats, like omega-3 fatty acids. They're key for keeping both your hair and the skin underneath hydrated and healthy. Think salmon, avocados, flax seeds.
So we are quite literally building our beards from the inside out with what we eat. Okay, how does physical activity fit into this picture? Does exercise help?
It does, significantly. Regular physical activity, whether it's cardio or resistance training, really improves blood circulation.
Ah, delivery system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Better delivery of oxygen, all those crucial nutrients we just talked about, directly to your hair follicles. Plus, some exercises, particularly high-intensity resistance training and HIIT, they can even provide a temporary acute boost in testosterone levels. But more broadly, just maintaining a consistent exercise routine, it supports a healthier overall endocrine profile. And it helps counteract factors like obesity, which can actually lower testosterone.
Makes sense. And what about the less tangible but maybe equally crucial factors like sleep and stress? Do they really impact beard growth?
Oh, they have a profound impact. Surprisingly so for many people.
Like sleep. Oh.
Sleep is absolutely critical. It's when your body does most of its repair work and hormone regulation. The majority of your body's daily testosterone production, for instance, actually happens while you sleep.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so chronic sleep deprivation can undeniably suppress testosterone levels. There was even a landmark study back in 1987.
Yeah.
It showed that after just 48 hours of sleep deprivation, beard growth decreased by a notable 19%.
19%. Just from lack of sleep.
Yep, so consistently aiming for 7-8 hours of quality sleep isn't just about feeling rested, it's pretty foundational for your beard too.
Okay. Message received on sleep and stress. How does that undermine our beard efforts?
Well, conversely, chronic stress is a genuine detriment. High levels of the stress hormone cortisol, they can negatively impact testosterone production. Furthermore, severe stress can actually trigger a condition called telogen effluvium.
What's that?
That's where hair prematurely shifts into the resting phase, the telogen phase we talked about, leading to widespread shedding.
Can that happen with beard hair too?
It's primarily studied on the scalp, but it's pretty logical to infer it could affect facial hair as well.
Mm-hmm.
So actively managing stress through exercise, medication, finding your own relaxation techniques, that's a vital component of a holistic beard supportive lifestyle.
All right, taking care of the whole system. Okay, so we've covered the internal elements, diet, exercise, sleep, stress. But your beard grows from your face, so the external condition, the skin underneath it, must matter just as much, right?
Absolutely, 100%. The skin provides the literal foundation for your beard. Think of a dedicated skincare routine as essential preventative maintenance. If your follicles are clogged with debris or maybe inflamed by ingrown hairs or surrounded by dry, unhealthy skin, they simply cannot function at their best.
Yep.
Growth can be impeded.
So cleansing isn't just about looking neat, it's about creating a healthy environment for growth.
Exactly. That's the primary purpose of daily cleansing, ideally twice a day. You want to meticulously remove accumulated dirt, excess sebum, that's oil environmental pollutants, dead skin cells.
All the gunk.
Pretty much. All the stuff that can clog pores and hair follicles. Clogged follicles can impede growth, and they can contribute to irritation or even folliculitis,
You always see it.
basically inflamed hair follicles. Not fun. So it's really important to use lukewarm water and a gentle cleanser. Or even better, a purpose-made beard wash that's designed to penetrate through the hair to the skin.
Not just regular soap, then.
Definitely steer clear of harsh body soaps or bar soaps. They can strip your skin of its natural protective oils.
Okay, gentle cleansing. And what about exfoliation? That sounds like it really clears the way for new growth.
Exfoliation is key, yeah. It removes that outermost layer of dead skin cells,
Yeah.
thoroughly unclogging pores. That's essential for preventing those painful ingrown hairs that can sometimes pop up in a beard.
Right.
Beyond just clearing the path, it also stimulates blood circulation to the skin, which means more nutrients delivered right to the follicles.
Circulation again.
Yep. Plus, it enhances the absorption of any topical products you might apply afterward, like moisturizers or oils.
How often should you exfoliate?
You can use physical methods, like a gentle facial scrub or maybe a boar bristle brush, or chemical exfoliants like AHAs or BHAs. The general recommendation is maybe 1 to 3 times per week, depending on your skin sensitivity. You don't want to overdo it.
Got it. Finally, moisturizing. This is for the beard hair itself, but also the skin underneath, isn't it?
Right, it serves a dual purpose, absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Hydrating the skin beneath your beard is crucial for preventing flaking, beard rough.
Yeah, the dreaded beard rough.
Exactly. And itchiness, general discomfort. But simultaneously, it conditions the actual beard hairs, keeps them from becoming brittle, coarse, or prone to breakage, makes them feel softer.
So what are the options here? Beard oil seems popular.
Yeah, beard oil is great. It's typically blends of carrier oils like jojoba or argan. They offer deep hydration, add shine, and they're excellent for reducing itch, especially good for normal to dry skin.
What if oil feels too heavy?
Then you might look at beard cream or lotion. These are usually lighter, water-based options. They absorb quickly without leaving much residue. Great for daily hydration, especially if you have normal to oily skin.
Okay. And beard balm.
Beard balm is a thicker product. It usually contains butters and waxes, so it provides more intense conditioning and also a light styling hold. Good for taming flyaways.
And when's the best time to apply these?
For maximum efficacy with any of these, apply immediately after washing or exfoliating while your skin is still slightly damp. Helps lock in the moisture.
Okay, great tips. So let's say you've laid that solid foundation. You're eating well, sleeping, managing stress, got your skincare down. What else is available if you still want to, enhance your beard growth beyond its natural progression?
Right. This is where we get into active interventions. And it's really important here to understand the scientific backing, or sometimes the lack thereof, and the potential side effects for each. When it comes to actually stimulating growth, there's a pretty clear hierarchy of evidence.
Okay, hierarchy. Let's start at the top then. What's the big one, the most studied topical treatment? I'm guessing minoxidil.
You got it. Minoxidil, widely known by brand names like Rogaine, is officially FDA approved for scalp hair loss.
Right, for the head.
Exactly. Its use for beard enhancement is technically considered off-label, but it is by far the most scientifically substantiated topical intervention available for facial hair.
So there's actual proof it works for beards.
Yes, significant evidence. There was a key 2016 double-blind, placebo-controlled trial published in the Journal of Dermatology. Participants used a 3% minoxidil lotion twice daily for 16 weeks.
Huh.
And they showed a statistically significant improvement in facial hair count compared to the placebo group. Plus, lots of case reports, like studies on identical twins, consistently support its effectiveness for beard growth.
Okay. How does it actually work, though? Do we know?
Well, its precise mechanism isn't fully understood, surprisingly, but we know it's a vasodilator.
Meaning it widens blood vessels.
Correct. This improves blood flow and nutrient delivery directly to the hair follicles. It's also theorized to prolong the anagen, that growth phase, and maybe shorten the telogen, the resting phase, of the hair cycle.
So it keeps hairs growing longer.
That seems to be part of it, yeah. But you need to be patient with minoxidil. It takes time.
How much time?
You might even see some initial shedding in the first 2-4 weeks, which can be alarming, but is often normal. Then you might start seeing new, fine, villous hairs appearing around the 3-4 month mark. And those slowly mature into thicker terminal hairs over 6-12 months, or sometimes even longer.
So it's a commitment.
Absolutely. It requires continuous twice-daily use, because the effects will cease, generally, once treatment stops. The gains aren't always permanent if you stop using it.
What about side effects?
Common side effects are usually localized things like skin irritation, dryness, itching, or redness where you apply it. You might also experience unwanted hair growth on adjacent areas, like maybe high on the cheeks or near the eyes. That's called hypertrichosis.
Okay. Anything serious?
Rare, but serious cardiovascular side effects are possible because it can be absorbed systemically. So it's always wise to consult with a doctor before starting, especially if you have any heart conditions.
Right. Good advice. Okay, so minoxidil is the most proven topical. What about microneedling, also known as derma rolling? That sounds a bit more intense. Needles on your face.
Yeah, it sounds a bit intimidating, but microneedling involves creating microscopic punctures in the skin using a device with tiny needles, like a roller or a pen.
And this helps beard growth.
Well, the direct evidence specifically for beards is largely inferred from very strong studies on the scalp, but the underlying biological principles are highly applicable. And critically, multiple studies show that microneedling, especially when used in combination with topical minoxidil, yields results superior to using either treatment alone.
So they work together, like a team.
Exactly. It's a powerful adjuvant therapy, meaning it enhances the primary treatment, minoxidil in this case.
How does pricking your skin actually help hair grow? It seems counterintuitive.
It's quite clever, actually.
Hmm.
When you create those tiny microinjuries, you trigger the body's natural wound healing cascade.
Okay.
This process releases a host of beneficial growth factors right in the skin, things like platelet-derived growth factor and epidermal growth factor, which are crucial for hair development. It also seems to activate follicular stem cells and upregulate genes related to hair growth.
Wow. And the synergy part with minoxidil.
Ah, yes. And here's the key synergy. Those microchannels, created by the needles, dramatically increase the penetration and absorption of any topical products you apply afterward,
Yeah.
like minoxidil.
Some more gets in.
Exactly. More of the active ingredient gets delivered directly to the follicles where it's needed most. This combination, minoxidil plus microneedling, really represents the most potent non-surgical approach supported by current evidence.
Any downsides or things to watch out for with microneedling?
Yes, absolutely. Strict hygiene is essential. You're creating tiny wounds, so you need to keep the device and your skin clean to prevent infection.
Makes sense.
And it's generally advised to wait about 24 hours after microneedling before applying minoxidil. This is to avoid excessive absorption through those fresh channels, which could increase the risk of systemic side effects.
Okay, good to know. Right, and finally, let's talk about the products we see marketed everywhere as beard growth solutions. Standard beard oils and those fancy growth serums. What's the real story there? Is it mostly hype?
Yeah, the market for these is absolutely saturated, and you really need a critical eye. Let's be crystal clear about standard beard oils first.
Okay.
They are primarily conditioning products, period. There is very little, if any, credible scientific evidence that traditional beard oils stimulate the growth of new hair or activate dormant follicles.
So they don't make more hair grow.
No. Their proven function is cosmetic and hygienic. They moisturize the existing beard hair and the skin underneath. They reduce dryness, itchiness, breakage. They make the beard feel softer, look healthier, more manageable. That's valuable, but it's not growth stimulation.
What about essential oils like peppermint oil? I've seen things about that.
Yeah, there have been some preliminary animal studies showing intriguing hair growth effects with certain essential oils, like peppermint. But, and this is a big but, these results haven't been replicated in rigorous human trials specifically for beards. So interesting, but not proven for humans yet.
Okay, so beard oil is for conditioning, not growth. What about beard serums? They seem marketed more aggressively for growth.
They are, yeah. They often contain proprietary complexes. You might see names like Capilia longa or Neoxyli floated around.
Do they work?
Well, here's the catch. The evidence supporting their claims typically comes from manufacturer-sponsored studies, or maybe studies on just one specific ingredient in isolation. These often lack the scale, independence, and rigor of the peer-reviewed clinical trials that support something like minoxidil.
So less reliable evidence.
Significantly less reliable, generally. So while they might hold some promise and some people might see results, they should be viewed with a healthy dose of caution. Think of them as a more experimental alternative, rather than a scientifically proven solution like Moxidil. Buyer beware, essentially.
Got it. Okay, so we've covered optimizing your health, taking care of your skin, and the most effective topical interventions like minoxidil and microneedling. But when does sparse or patchy beard growth become less about optimization and more of a medical question that genuinely requires professional help?
That's a great question. It's true that not all cases are simply down to genetics or just waiting for it to mature. There are specific situations.
Like what?
Well, for instance, if you start to observe distinct, smooth, usually round or oval patches of complete hair loss suddenly appearing within your beard, That could be a condition called alopecia barbae.
Alopecia barbae.
Yeah, it's an autoimmune disease where your own immune system mistakenly attacks your hair follicles in the beard area. This absolutely requires seeing a dermatologist for a proper diagnosis and treatment. Treatment might involve things like corticosteroid injections or creams.
Okay, so sudden, smooth patches, see a doctor. Anything else?
Also, while it's uncommon as a primary cause for just patchy facial hair, significant hormonal imbalances could be at play, specifically clinically low levels of testosterone or hypogonadism.
How would you know?
Well, this would almost always be accompanied by other systemic symptoms, things like chronic fatigue, low libido, muscle loss, other significant changes beyond just the beard.
So not just the beard is affected.
Exactly. If you experience those kinds of broader symptoms, along with poor beard development, then a consultation with an endocrinologist or your primary care physician for hormonal testing is definitely warranted.
Okay. And for those guys who have, waited patiently, tried the topicals, done the skincare, and still have significant persistent genetic gaps, like areas where follicles just don't seem to exist, is there a definitive permanent solution?
Yes, there is. For individuals whose beards are fully mature again, think late 20s or older, and who are looking for a permanent solution for those genetic gaps, or maybe just to significantly increase density where there are simply no follicles. The most definitive option is a follicular unit extraction, FUE, beard transplant.
A transplant, like for scalp hair.
Exactly the same principle. It's a surgical procedure. Individual hair follicular units are meticulously extracted, usually from the back of the scalp where the hair is genetically resistant to balding, and then they're transplanted one by one into the beard area to fill gaps or increase density.
Is it effective?
Highly effective, yes. It offers permanent results because you're moving genetically robust follicles, but it is an invasive procedure, it's expensive, and it requires recovery time.
So a last resort, maybe?
It's usually considered only after natural beard maturation is complete and after thoroughly exploring and perhaps trying the other non-surgical options most. It's a significant decision.
Right. Okay, that brings us towards wrapping up. Let's tackle some of those really persistent beard myths head on. Just quick, true or false. First, the absolute classic. Shaving makes hair grow back thicker, darker, or faster. True or false?
Absolutely. Unequivocally false.
Okay. Why does it feel like it does then?
This myth has been debunked by clinical studies going back as far as 1928. When you shave, you're simply cutting the hair shaft at its thickest point, right at the skin level. So the blunt end of the newly growing stubble feels coarser and appears darker compared to a naturally tapered hair that hasn't been cut. Shaving has precisely zero effect on the hair follicle beneath the skin. It cannot alter its genetically determined growth rate, thickness, or color. None.
Myth busted. Okay, next up. A patchy beard in your early 20s means it will never fill in. True or false?
Also false. As we discussed earlier, the biological timeline of beard development extends well into a man's 20s and often deep into his 30s for full maturation.
So patchiness early on is normal.
Incredibly common. It's frequently just a normal developmental phase, not a permanent state. So again, patience is a scientifically sound strategy here. Don't give up hope in your early 20s.
Good to hear. All right, the genetic myth. Beard growth genetics are inherited only from your mother's side of the family. True or false?
Incorrect. False again. Beard growth is a complex polygenic trait. It's influenced by a combination of genes inherited from both the maternal and paternal sides of the family.
So look at dad and mom's dad.
Exactly. Look to both sides of your family tree for potential clues about your beard's future.
Okay, finally, just to reiterate a point we made earlier, because it's important. Beard oils are primary growth products. True or false?
False. While they are an important part of beard care and health, the evidence-backed function of standard beard oils is to condition and moisturize the existing hair and the skin beneath it.
So they make it look and feel better.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
They make a beard healthier looking, softer, less itchy, more manageable. That's great. But they do not contain ingredients that have been proven in rigorous human trials to stimulate new follicles to start growing hair. Their role is in maintenance and health, not in primary growth stimulation.
Clear distinction. Okay, fantastic.
Yes. So, to sort of bring it all together, remember this. Your fundamental capacity to grow a beard, that's governed by your fixed genetic blueprint. Can't change that. However, the full expression of that blueprint, how good your beard actually looks and feels, that is significantly influenced by a dynamic interplay of hormones, your age, and critically, your overall health and how you care for it.
Right.
So while you can't change your genetic potential, you absolutely can take strategic, evidence-based actions to ensure that potential is fully and healthily expressed.
It's truly a multifaceted approach then. It's not about finding one single magic bullet.
Not at all.
We've kind of outlined a clear, tiered action plan for you listening, starting with the absolute fundamentals.
Mm-hmm.
Foundation first. That means optimize your lifestyle, right? Balanced diet, regular exercise, quality sleep, manage that stress, and pair this with a consistent skincare regimen, cleansing, exfoliating, moisturizing. That sets the stage.
Absolutely essential first step.
Then evidence-based intervention. If you want more, consider topical minoxidil, 5%. It's the most studied and proven off-label treatment, but remember it requires consistent, long-term commitment.
And patience. Lots of patience.
And patience. Then, for potentially even better results, advanced synergy. You could explore combining microneedling with minoxidil. They seem to work together synergistically, boosting growth factors and improving product absorption. But be meticulous about hygiene.
Very important, the hygiene.
And finally, medical consultation. Seek professional advice if you suspect underlying medical conditions like alopecia Barbie or maybe true hormonal imbalances. And down the line, for those seeking a permanent fix for genetic gaps, consider a beard transplant, FUE, but only once your natural beard is fully mature.
Yeah, that's a really solid hierarchy. The ultimate takeaway, I think, is that the path to a better beard, or maximizing your best beard, it's a marathon, not a sprint. It demands patience, first, to allow for that natural development timeline. It requires consistency in applying those foundational health and skincare principles. And it needs realistic expectations, grounded in a scientific understanding of your own unique biology.
Yeah, working with your body, not against it. So maybe consider what it really means to work with your body's biology, rather than feeling like you're fighting against it, especially when pursuing any personal goal like this.
Yeah.
We really hope this deep dive into the science of beard growth has given you some clear, actionable insights and empowered you with knowledge.
Hope it helps.
And if you have more questions, or maybe other sources you'd like us to dive into next time, definitely let us know. Thanks for joining us.